ladies and gentlemen, a Chaos Warriors Let's Play as Archaon the Ever-Chosen in Warhammer 2. So, I wanted to make this Let's Play a bit unique and a bit different from my other ones. Namely, there's going to be like a mini Let's Play with the Chaos Warriors, because let's face it, they're not the most fun faction to play with, especially late game. That said though, let's get into it, and during the course of the battles and so on and so forth, I'll explain what I mean by slightly different, and let's begin with the following. I'm running a few mods with this game. Now, the reason for that is, basically, there was a DLC for Warhammer 2 called The Vampire Coast, and what that DLC essentially did was it added a faction that played kind of like a horde, play like a regular faction as well, so that it gave them extreme flexibility. Plus, it made them mechanically the best horde in the game, and gave them a solid unit roster as well. So essentially, I mean, it's weird to say that in a single player game, but it basically power crept all the other hordes, the Beastmen and the Chaos Warriors. Now, you don't play this game for the balance, obviously, etc., etc., but it did add some new mechanics to the game as well, and some interesting things to play around with. And the Chaos Warriors were never really the most overpowered faction ever, and it did have, or rather they did have some problems, let's say, associated with them off the get-go, so really buffing them a little bit with mods, and not necessarily just flat out buffing them, changing them around and how they work a little bit. I suppose that does make a little bit of sense, and yeah, I like that quite a bit. So, what we have here is Archaon the Ever-Chosen with a couple of mods. I'm going to provide the whole list of mods in the description down below, and basically we're going to play a little bit around as this guy, and we're going to raid the sort of surrounding area, and then we're probably going to call it quits, because that's going to be enough. Because now, every time I sack a settlement, it creates a portal to, the Chaos Wastes up here, and it will randomly spawn armies every now and again. Now, this doesn't happen very often, but, well, it does happen occasionally, so yeah. Also, there is now no reason not to go into encamp mode at the end of every turn, because basically what that does is it adds extra growth, and yeah. Vampire Coast mechanic, by the way, as well. They can enter encamp for 0 movement cost, which is, yeah, I know. Anyways, I also wanted to make this video, or this video series, this Let's Play, a little bit more relaxed, as you can probably tell. So that means not necessarily like, whispered or particularly soft-spoken either. More just relaxing. Straight up, a little bit more relaxing. So minus all the yelling at the game when it annoys me for one reason or another, or anything along those lines, really. Just, something that you can pop on maybe in the background while you're doing something, or something relaxing, whatever, doesn't matter. And if you use this to fall asleep, then I will view that as one of the highest forms of praise possible. So basically I'm just testing the waters with a few innovative things. And the reason for that is kind of amusing to nobody but me. Yeah, I think we can win this if I fight it. Definitely, because I have Chosen and Chaos Warriors and Chaos Spawn. Ooh, yeah, and to build a new... yeah, that's gonna... Yes, to build one of these I need 4 or 5 population. So yeah, we're gonna fight this. Or actually, I could siege for 1 more turn and then fight. Nah, let's fight this right now. And the reason for doing that is I've been looking at a lot of videos of this type, where it's just some idle noise in the background, or someone reading something moderately quietly, or, you know, some of them do the extreme and go for whispering and content of that type, you know, relaxing background. Not some of them are ASMR, you know, like branded as such. Some of them are not, but basically like stuff to listen to in the background. And I also had some problems, if that makes any sense. Does not need to be mentioned right around either one going to bed. Is put some out there as well for others to enjoy, and maybe it helps someone, or, you know, you find it horribly annoying and utterly trash, and you don't want to do anything with it, or you don't want to have anything with it, which is entirely understandable and acceptable, which is sort of the reason why these are just bonus videos. Yeah, so the regular series on the channel and the Let's Plays and the first impressions and so on and so forth, they will continue regardless of this series. So there is that. So, you know, even if you utterly despise this style of video or whatever, it's fine, because you're not, you know, it doesn't come at the sacrifice of something else. Though it would be kind of fitting that it did, given the entire chaos nature and everything, with Archeon and all that. It would have been somewhat amusing to me, at least. But maybe that's just my weird sense of humour. Alright, so what do we have here? I do have GMC or GMMC or whatever it's called, the Custom Settlements mod. Now I'm pretty sure this is vanilla. This is how camps look like in Norska. Or this is how Norskan camps look like in general, depending on the level of the settlement, obviously, but I think this is vanilla. We're going to see some of the really nice custom settlements when we head further south into Empire territory. That ought to be quite neat. Now, let's go ahead and toss a fireball at them. Let's see how this goes. Right. Nice, and that ought to get them to do something as well, probably. But if they don't, I'm happy to keep tossing it in their general direction until they respond somehow. Because they do not have any magical powers whatsoever, and I do. Plus it's a really cheap spell, and a good way of getting kills for Archeon, so... And basically leveling him up is the be-all, end-all of the campaign. The first 15, 10, 50... well, I'll go with 15. The first 15 levels of any Horde campaign are painful, because you're not much better than a regular army, or let's say a regular faction that controls territory, and you're basically experiencing exclusively the downsides of being a Horde. But later you get to some of the unique buffs, you get to the not having to defend territory becomes an advantage in many ways, and yeah, it's great and very powerful later down the line, but at the beginning of the campaign it can be a little bit tiresome and how should we call it? Actually, what happens if I hit them in the back? Oh, they just don't react. It's interesting how they're shuffling around troops. Alright, I'll try and hit the leader, maybe that'll get them to do something. Because I would prefer them to march out towards me, that way I can get rid of the javelin throwers. But I'm perfectly happy just launching fireballs at them as well. You know, obviously not forever, but as long as we have Winds of Magic to do that. Oh, the Winds of Magic are horrendously bad here. It's one every... yeah. Besides, it's depleted now anyway. Alright, that's 100 kills. It's not horrible. It's almost like a full Marauder unit. I'd rather kill a full Marauder unit than go about it like this, but you know, you can't have it all. Now, let's see if you can actually get into... ooh. I'm perfectly happy doing this as well, if they're going to let me. Because these guys are not going to get much better of a way of hitting their targets than this, especially not later in inside the settlement. Yep, that got the enemy's attention. So they're on skirmish mode, I don't care about them, they're going to be able to retreat very easily. And cause some significant damage probably to the front ranks of the enemy, which has decided to turn their backs to a bunch of marauders throwing spears at them. That's... yeah, let's take a look at this. Not the smartest, dare I say. I actually need to look at the ranges now. Okay, there we go. I love the Blood and Gore DLC. Is it too much? Is it completely over the top? Absolutely. Does it still look good for the few sort of cinematic moments that you get between ordering troops around? Absolutely, yes. I mean, look at that. Ugh. Oh, that is brutal. Plus they're coming out with the wrong unit. These guys don't have shields, they're much easier targets for my horsemen. And my primary sort of well, my primary idea for these was, thank you, was to use them as archer killers or marauder hunter killers. Charge them in, and they will beat a marauder hunter unit relatively easily. Oh, and I should mention I'm not playing this on legendary difficulty, mostly because I'm recording this late at night, and I don't want to focus that much on cheesing every single battle, and I don't want my units to be infinitely inferior to anything the enemy has at all times, and I really hate cheating AI. Now, in some instances, the AI has to cheat because it's utterly useless. But Warhammer 2 AI cheats anyway, just making all of their units flat out 3 times better than equivalent player units doesn't make any sense to me, and well, it makes sense from a challenge perspective, but I do not enjoy that one bit. So yeah, I suppose that's that. Let's go in. Even though I could be doing this until I run out of ammo, basically. But yeah, we've killed like, we haven't killed that many men. We're not doing too fantastic of a job, but it's alright. Archeon is still hidden, which half makes sense, because, you know, he's in the middle of all of this, I suppose. Alright, we're going to have him duel the enemy leader. And I'm going to have these guys focus fire over there. And I'm going to get the Warhounds in along with the Spawn of Chaos. Like so. Good. We've already punched through, and we're now going to hit the ranged units of the enemy army. Let's get the heavy infantry in on the fight as well, making sure they prioritize enemies. Well, basically that they prioritize enemy heavy infantry. Now these guys have great weapons. I don't want to send Chaos Spawn against them. I want Chaos Spawn to fight over there, if at all possible. And then let's get the cavalry sort of in there somewhere, right? Oh, and Archeon won his duel incredibly easily. Well, mind you, he did have a little bit of help from practically 400 or 500 or so of heavy infantry, but you know, let's pay no attention to that for now. I'll actually send Archeon over there, down sort of the down the center. I'll send the Warhounds over there too. Chaos Spawn fights regular Marauders though, and this is a complete mismatch. Chosen of Chaos versus regular Marauders, and then the Spawn coming in. I mean, this is very pretty to watch. Not necessarily too calming or relaxing, but you know, I don't know. Maybe for some people it is. They're actually throwing more reinforcements and they're throwing more meat into the meat grinder. That is quite something. That is quite something. Alright, I just realised I have sound muted, but we didn't need sound up until now. This is too loud on my end. I can lower it, but I can also lower it here a little bit. Oh, one last change. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Now, as much as I would love to stay and watch, we are losing quite a few soldiers up here. So I'm gonna try and fix that, basically. Okay, I think we've won. We can continue watching the meat grinder here. Have they actually taken out a spawn? No, they haven't. They've killed a few chosen here and there. But, like, you can barely see it. There's one shield from the chosen, but look at this. I mean, just look at that. It's genuinely just a little bit disturbing. Alright, considering we've won over here as well, let's chase the enemy down for some nice action as well with the hounds. That'll yes, please continue, thank you. And then with the horsemen. Right. That's it, they've basically submitted. Now the battle's not over yet, as over as it may seem. The enemy actually outnumbered us quite a bit, and only now is that showing. But the heavy infantry blob here is an absolute meat grinder. I want to check the number of kills, if I remember, after the battle. Very curious about that, because I think we've absolutely butchered people here. Mind you, there's 5 units here, so they all share those kills, or they will share those kills, so might not be that impressive in terms of numbers. I don't know, in terms of efficiency though, they are unrivaled. And that should be it. Yup. Good. Good. So we've basically completely dominated the battlefield. Some casualties on the regular marauders of chaos, but they'll replenish relatively enough. I'm pretty happy with that battle overall. And Archeon got a fair few kills too. Right, so yeah, the Chaos Spawn had 100 kills. Obviously, the Marauder Horsemen and the Warhounds will have a lot from chasing enemies down, because they're stupidly good at that. But actually in combat, the regular Marauders seem to have done quite a lot of work, much more so than Chaos Warriors. Although, like I said, we know the reason they fought a blob of enemies, while these guys sort of fought on a more dynamic battlefield, if that makes any sense. With the front line sort of shifting and the enemy retreating, while these guys pretty much stood in one place for the entirety of the battle. 10 kills, though I expected a little bit more than that. But oh well, I suppose the Chaos Spawn picked up most of the killing, which is good. I want them to get experience. Kill absolutely no one. Which is why it's probably going to take a worse viewing experience than Shadows. This way at armor. So if you know about Archeon, I recommend a quick little search about him if you're interested in the lore. Alternatively, here's the 30-second version of it, which basically goes like this. Archeon the Ever-Chosen's fluff is he was a priest of Sigmar, read some heretical texts, that made him insane, and he then vowed to be the bringer of the end for pretty much all of mankind and everything associated with. And so, then begins his journey. Now, Archaon the Ever-Chosen being this insanely powerful insanely powerful character and all that, I have no problem with. I need horde growth. I desperately need horde growth. That'll help. Alright, that I don't have a lot of problems with. What I do have a problem with, making his way across the Warhammer universe like it's kindergarten, right? So he comes across beastmen, he defeats them, he comes across Chaos Marauders, he kills all of them. He wasn't just a priest, he was, I guess, what you could describe as a warrior priest to some extent, right? Because he did do quite a bit of fighting, and he was quite competent at fighting. This is clearly stated. But quite competent is different from literally godlike, if you follow my line of reasoning here, right? Because if you're quite you might, write a few good stories that people on the internet will enjoy. If you're quite competent at basketball, you might play for your high school team or your, I don't know, maybe even your city's club. But you're not going to become LeBron James or Steph Curry or, the next great sensation out there without any training whatsoever. It's not how any of that works. So, that said, that's pretty much exactly what Failbadon did. And he hunted down magical artifacts one at a time from all the previous people that have failed, that were in the same position as he was, and he went, right, I'll have that, I'll have that, I'll have that, all the while wearing the most amount of plot armor one could possibly conceive of. And then he became Archaon the Ever-Chosen. There is one sort of, how do I put this? Well, every great empire has its moment of absolute failure and embarrassment. You can tell where this is going. Every great empire has one of those moments. We need to kill these right now, because that's a big settlement. And I intend on sieging it out. This isn't... It's a difficult battle, but I think it's going to be easier than the next one. I'm going to do this one in the next video. Alright. Yoktraken. I need to remember that name. That's what I'm sieging. Let's grab the next thing. I think this is great, but I need this, and money's not that much of a problem. Good. So, where was I? Yes. Basically what I'm saying is every empire has their Teutoburg. For Rome, that was, Teutoburg Forest, where they got their asses whooped by the German, or the Germanic tribes. Germanic tribes, I argue there's a difference. The Germanic tribes are the post-migration ones. The Germanic ones would be the ones that live in Germania. Later, obviously, they mixed up, but yeah, officially, they're both Germanic tribes. I just feel that there is... This needs to change to cesspit, not help it, but okay, look, it's horrible. Ugh, alright. Anyways, yes, so they're, his Teutoburg Forest, where his great, all-powerful self got defeated by something, was against Grimgor Ironhide, even though he technically, well, not technically, he didn't lose the battle, he sort of just lost the duel, kind of-ish. But we'll talk about that in the next video. So yeah, tell me what you think about the sort of this style of content, I suppose, and yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.